Well, I believe there's a lot more for me because I don't believe I'm anywhere near um, being, at the peak of a career. All right. I think what would be my direction, so to speak, would be exploring new areas, new areas of industry, interacting to promote sound environmental management, sustainable development, as I mentioned. Um, and as not to say that it's just a scientific kind of approach. Of course, all of that is linked back to human skills, interaction, interpersonal skills, as well as effective communication. It sounds like a cliche, but that's how we get our messages across and to various audiences, So I see the development, as I said, in new areas and new approaches. And of course, all of this towards, of course, focusing on promoting the health, safety, and welfare of employees, and as well as preservation, protection of the environment in a holistic sense. I've worked in an office type environment as well as in the industrial type environment. And what I can say too, in the industry, much of the work is done really through relationships. I can put it to you bluntly, in industry, on the field, hierarchical power probably reduces to one of the lowest social bases of power. In an office environment, the hierarchy probably would carry more strength. But as I said, in this environment, it could be a bit different. So it goes back to forging the right relationships, types of relationships, as well as, I cannot underscore enough the need for respect for persons. I think, as you mentioned, new graduates, and this is not female I'm speaking about, in general. I think new graduates probably come in a workplace believing that their degree, a BSc or whatever, makes them better than other persons. And it's reflected probably in the way they speak to people, or even inclusion of persons. And that really would, alienate persons. I mean, anybody, right? So I think it calls for a recognition too, and maybe they should teach that in the universities. Recognition of the appreciation, rather, of the different skill sets that people bring to the workplace. And of course, I can't say it enough times, respect for persons and their capabilities, their areas of expertise and so. Okay, well, I was mentioned before the serving as the president of APETT.
Okay, so that was
right? And my whole career shift, serving now, being employed now as the Group Health, Safety and Environment Manager in industry. Notable among that, I had mentioned the ISO 14001 certification, right? And the ongoing, the projects that we work on with respect to sustainable development, and all of that. That is a difficult one on the body motion. I think it goes back to human nature again. You'll find people, what this is the universal human need to feel a sense of being appreciated or so forth. So in that regard, we need to draw out our members. I still think it's the responsibility of the Executive Council to define action programs and then to delve deeper into the membership in terms of how to have people come out, showcase their talents, contribute that towards the relevant program, and with some measure of recognition or appreciation hand in hand. It could be as simple as, I see this started under past President Saunders, the recognition of the fellows, the recognition of the past presidents at any APETT event. These simple things, we may call them simple, sorry, I may refer to them as simple. However, I think it will go a long way in terms of drawing the membership out to be actively involved, because I'm sure you've heard this phrase too often. People say, I wouldn't do so and so because it's a waste of time. Now, when you delve deeper in, when they say it's a waste of time, maybe they felt their efforts were not appreciated, or their efforts were not channeled, or they didn't have the opportunity to decide on how an objective should be achieved. So it's this part of human insights that should be applied as we try to draw the membership to come out and participate in meaningful events. I could hazard to call the names of the persons. I hope the memory is working. Myself as the coordinator. There's Engineer Alan Punkin from WASA. They do not represent the organizations. I'm just saying where they work. Yeah. Engineer Stefan Gift, Anthony Farrell, Stanley West, and Dennis Singh. Right. We were formed under, I think, the presidency of Richard Saunders. Largely, we haven't engaged in any projects, external projects as such. We do review the code of ethics as it is right now, and the view was expressed, I should say the consensual view, was that the code of ethics as it stands right now is sufficient. However, I take your point that there really is a lot more that the ethics committee, or even APETT as a whole, could be doing with respect to promoting the adoption and demonstration of high ethical values by all our members. It is an interesting topic, that of ethics, because I think too often it's interpreted to mean I didn't thief, so didn't steal, so I'm ethical. Stealing is against the law, so that's a legal issue. But if we explore the whole, which I know we won't have time to do here, the whole issue of ethical conduct, it is an area where you can see significant doubt being introduced in the mind of the designer, so to speak, in terms of, for example, we know motor vehicles can be designed in such a way to reduce the likelihood of serious injury to the occupants by putting in how many airbags, all of that, those type of safety devices. But of course, there's a cost balance with that. So then, that is just an example of where an ethical dilemma can come in that, do I as an engineer say, oh no, I know an airbag, I feel an airbag, a vehicle should have 6 airbags so that all occupants are protected against a head-on collision or precise side impact collisions and so. Yes, you may hold that view, but then that has to be balanced with the actual cost, and not only that, the marketability of such a vehicle. So I'm just using that as an example of what are true ethical dilemmas in terms of satisfying the needs of many with some trade-off. So those are sort of the ethical decisions, and it is an area that I believe Winston Riley spoke on in his presidential lecture, and it's an area that I believe that we should really explore in greater detail to get the feedback from actual practitioners, especially with respect to commonly experienced ethical dilemmas, so that while we may not be able to make a firm pronouncement on yes, this is what you do or that is, once the principles are there, hopefully our engineers will be better guided in how to proceed. I mean, when you look at the means of communication now, things are so easy. It's so easy to communicate now, sending an email. And I always tell people, it's not a complaint I want. We don't want, anybody could complain. We need somebody to, yes, identify a problem, if there is one, yeah, and chart a way forward in terms of solving that problem, improving the situation, and again, interacting, engaging other members of the association to form little project teams so that we can have that buzz of activity, throughout the APETT membership, so as to achieve, of course, our objectives. It's interesting because the theme of my president's statement in the 50th anniversary annual report was that of the power of association. Power of association, meaning the power of the APETT association, as well as the power of associating with others. And I think that's something that, as we talk about young engineers, that they should really channel their efforts in terms of contributing their talents, their time, their expertise towards, developing, or rather putting right some of the wrongs that you hear people complain about. Too often people complain about things. There are solutions, but as with everything, as I say, it always goes back to the human. We can all say traffic is a mess. Okay, But how do we move on that? And as I see it, the first step is always getting the right humans, the right persons involved. Humans sound so humanoid, yeah? Getting the right persons involved so that you could carry it forward, right?